Welcome back to the Grand Solar Minimum channel. Today is Thursday, July 10th, 2024. How about 2025? My Lord. Yeah, so it's been a day. It's been quite a week, actually. Last couple of weeks, we've seen a lot of, you know, a lot of weather. We've seen some space weather drop off. And we are also now watching some things get a little more active here as far as earthquake and volcanic activity is concerned. So let's get right into it. And I also have an explanation, or I'm going to give it a good, educated explanation here of why what we saw here the last few days with the flooding. It's perfectly explained, I think, but it is not the usual fear porn answer that most of you probably were expecting to hear. So let's get started with it. Solar wind speeds coming in at 342.3 kilometers per second with a density of a 1.46. Sunspot number is an 83. Last time we broadcasted was actually June 9th, and we had a sunspot number of 82. As you can see, that there is a lot on the western limb that is now facing or turning away from Earth. That is going to make a big difference in tomorrow's sunspot numbers. These will not be visible here on the western limb. We do have some more action here on the eastern limb, but is it as much as what we just saw over here? So the current sunspot number is 83. We'll continue to watch that fall off as tomorrow brings another day of really quiet here in the middle region of our star. There is that large coronal hole that we seem to see every 2.5 weeks. I will show a different version of this here in a minute. But you will notice that in the center of the sun is going to be a coronal hole that will be pretty much in the zone where it's going to have a direct impact on Earth. The good news is that this coronal hole is not going to be very wide. And for things to be concerning with coronal holes that are in the path of Earth and solar winds will be directly impacting our magnetosphere, is that's when we start to see a lot of seismic activity. And right now, we don't really need the uptick as we are starting to see a lot of things happening right now. Our KP index right now is sitting at a 1.33 with a 24-hour max of a 3. Cosmic radiation dosage rates, very important, negative 6.4%. You guys remember that big halo CME that we had that caused cosmic radiation dosage rates to be in the negative 17 to 18% range. But since that storm, things are back to normal. Cosmic radiation is building up in our orbit and into our atmosphere, and we are starting to see this number drop. Now, when you see the plus 0.09%, that's actually almost a full percent of cosmic radiation dosage rates. So remember, when we are increasing cosmic radiation dosage rates, we are putting more highly charged particles in the atmosphere. This show is going to be a little bit of a wrap-up of what Grand Solar Minimum is about and what the impact that the sun has on Earth's climate and the entire solar system too. It's not just Earth. Do humans play a role in temperature rise? There have been many papers posted about urban heat islands that I believe as well, with concrete and asphalt, the more we construct, it does seem to go along with the trend of temperatures being warmer, which makes a lot more sense. The more concrete, asphalt construction you do, the more that this is going to be absorbed, and temperatures have been a lot higher. But you have to also factor in the natural causes of these temperature rises and falls. It's all natural, first of all. Secondly, it's all about the sun's output. or lack thereof. During maximum, we saw peak temperatures, but I'm getting ahead of myself right now, so I want to just stop right there, and let's just go to spaceweatherlive.com. Oh, by the way, TSI is at a 1362.8 watts per square meter. So it was at 1363 the last time of our broadcast. A very slight difference in TSI right now. But let's go and take a look at it. Here we are. Let's take a look at our 3-month plot first. And as you can see, kind of leveled out here for a little bit. We have seen TSI drop mightily way back here in April, heading into May. That was a pretty convincing drop in TSI, and you can see lately the drops have not been as deep. But the active period of the TSI output was also shorter than what we're going through right now. But so if we follow trends, like we had a long one here and then we saw a huge drop, is that what's coming next here in a couple of weeks? We'll have to just wait and see. This is data that's good up until July 4th. Here's another look at TSI from a bigger picture. This is basically from 2019 to present time. And as you can see, we are definitely starting to see that peak definitely is clearly past, and we are now on the declining side of TSI. This black solid line within the squigglies here is the trend pattern, and look at how this drops off here. This chart is indicating that TSI is falling off a cliff as well. I know it doesn't look like it. It takes a while for it to to see these results. TSI is a very, very, very slow process. It's not a flip the switch overnight and we're down 2 watts per square meter. It doesn't work like that. It's going to go back and forth, up and down. And that is exactly what we're seeing. Over here at spaceweatherlive.com, there's a better look at that coronal hole that we have been experiencing about every 2 to 3 weeks, this region down here. And so this is not quite yet direct Earth facing, but by overnight tonight and into tomorrow, this will be centered up to where it'll be a direct impact for Earth. Now, what does that mean possibly for us? This could trigger a very weak geomagnetic storm by Saturday, July 12th, and I'm saying very weak, G1. But also, when you get an increase of solar wind, think about the solar wind once it reaches the magnetosphere ringing a bell. And that's where we get that seismic activity. And there's already some concern with seismic stuff, but we'll get to that here in a bit. And again, I just wanted to show this progression chart because it's important to point out here that it's still showing this huge drop in the solar cycle 25. So, and we showed you this over a month ago, more than that, and it's still right where we showed it. So either this is not getting updated or the data is looked at over a month at a period of time, and we should see an update shortly where this goes up slightly just across the 100 mark, but it's starting to trend back under 100 as we have a smooth sunspot number of 83 as we speak. So what does this mean for people who are new and watching this right now? Because you're trying to figure out, like, first of all, the show's title and thumbnail shows Dr. Roy Spencer and John Christie on the cover, and good reason for that. But this, to me, the natural side of things here is favored, I think, now than it was before in previous administrations, and I'll get to that in a minute. Taking a look at our sun, though, as far as sunspot activity, now we do see a lot of plage, I should say, in the eastern limb, but it's not as bright as you see here on the western limb as it's turning away from Earth. The stuff here on the eastern limb is not quite as dark. So it's possible we could see numbers of sunspots in the 50s, 55, 53. But I want to take a look. There is a spot down here. So Earthside sunspots, they're indicating here at spaceweatherlive.com that we have this right here is the most significant sunspot activity, and you can see that already looking at the blue star here above my head. Here I'll be like those corny Facebook people and point up. You see it in the north of the star. So that's that one there, and it's showing some weaker sunspots right here as we see a plethora of sunspots leaving Earth's view right now. So behind that on the far side, there's a couple of lighter spots that could pop up here on the eastern limb here in the next 2 to 3 days. So right now, we could see sunspot averages between 60 and 88 over the next week or so. We'll have to continue to monitor that as we watch the sun make its trip back away or rotate towards Earth once again. So let's talk about Roy Spencer real quick. Very, very well known across the community. Him and John Christie actually put out a paper that backs up what we were just talking about here a minute ago, which is Urban Heat Island paper has been published. And this also goes back to the early 1800 data sets, right before the Industrial Revolution, and is basically, this paper is proving that we know by building more structures, building more concrete and asphalt, it's absorbing more heat, and it is making surface temperatures rise. So, I'm an open-minded guy. When I see someone put the work in and put out scientific papers like this, especially from well-known and trusted people like Christie and Dr. Roy Spencer, I'm going to listen. So this is that small part of how man has something to do with temperature rise, but it's not the only factor. You have to put in these solar maximums, that where the sun's output is at highest levels that it is during a minimum, which in turn, during the minimums, we see a reaction with more seismic activity and cooler temperatures and more moisture. Where we are right now in solar cycle 25 is just about where we were when Mari and I started this channel back in 2017. We were coming out of a maximum and beginning the decline into a minimum, and a pretty deep minimum from solar cycle 24. So now we are heading back into another minimum. The TSI is showing you that. The sunspot numbers is showing you that. The solar activity is showing you that. 0.1% chance of an X-class flare today versus where it's been very high up until the last couple weeks. It's been quiet with that. But here we take a look at the global temperatures. Dr. Roy Spencer, in the month of May, we had him at 0.5 degrees above baseline. And then here in June, they dropped just a little bit, but 0.48 degrees Celsius over baseline. So we are starting to see a drop in temperatures. In fact, it's being reported more than just Dr. Roy Spencer's website. There are a lot of other data sets out there that are showing global temperature drops, and they're just as steep as this one right here. It's not a coincidence. Sun is lowering its activity significantly. Guys, we had numbers in this maximum that a lot of us didn't think were possible. All right, a lot of people missed the target on the sunspots. We thought it was going to be well below 200 on the average for the peak. There were a couple times we saw 330 something. So it did reach the 300s on the smooth sunspot number. So we did miss the the intensity of the solar activity that we saw for 25. But as we discussed a few episodes back, Valentina Sarkova had predicted that solar cycle 25 would have a rapid decline. And that's exactly what it's doing. That's what we showed you there on spaceweatherlive.com. But back to Dr. Roy Spencer and his work. Him and John Christie, longtime colleagues, and they've published papers before. Also affiliated with Willie Soon. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised to hear if Willie Soon gets brought on to the administration as well, because CNN is upset, and I thought it was funny. I love it. What they don't realize is that the people that are actually hired by the Trump administration, these guys are moderate when it comes to climate scientists. They're not diehard, hardcore beating the drum that, they know everything about climate science and, you can't tell them any different. That's not the mentality of these three gentlemen here. John Christie, very respected. Dr. Roy Spencer, also very respected. Stephen E. Koonin, also a part of that team. But the Trump administration has hired three prominent researchers who, over the course of their careers, have questioned and even rejected scientific consensus on human-caused climate change. And again, it's not that they just refute it and that's it. Roy and John published a paper talking about humans' role in temperature rise, but that it's not causing climate change. Climate change is natural. What we're seeing here in these 1 in 500 year storms and 1 in 1,000 year storms is part of cycles, and there's so many going on right now. But here we go. Each were given positions in the Energy Department, which is led by Secretary Chris Wright, a former oil and gas fracking executive. The researchers are John Christie and Roy Spencer, both of whom research scientists at the University of Alabama at Huntsville, and Stephen E. Koonin of Stanford University Hoover Institution. Koonin previously served at the DOE during the Obama administration earlier and was a scientist for the oil and gas giant BP. He, along with others, published for a public red team debate on climate science findings during the first Trump administration, but was overruled by political advisors in the White House at the time. Again, a lot of these politicians are clueless, even Republicans. Mary, the blonde, Mary Green, I don't know what her name is, but anyway, she's, no thanks, CNN. She is trying to write legislation about banning cloud seeding, and it's sad to see this because this shows you the lack of communication within the party. If they would pay attention to what the boss is doing here and hiring three prominent people who have published work that proves that climate change is based on natural causes, solar cycles, oceanic cycles, those play a huge role. And as David Dilley pointed out too, the ocean temperatures play a gigantic role as well, because 72% of the earth is water. And if 50% of the water is warm, we're going to have a warm climate. If 50% of the waters are cool, we're going to have a cool climate. It's as simple as that. And guess what? By 2030, there are several oceanic cycles that will be in their cooling stages in the North Atlantic, in the Pacific. We're already being predicted for a La Nina this winter. And also I have an update on the polar vortex. But Trump and CNN here is, so far they're being mature. The Energy Department did not immediately respond to CNN's request for comment on the hires of the three men, as well as questions on what they were working on at the DOE and how long they would be there. Hey, if we're looking for any solar researchers out there, you got my number, Roy. Just kidding. Anyway, but this is exciting, guys. Like, I've been following Dr. Roy Spencer's work this entire time I've been on this channel, and almost 10 years. So it's been going on 8 years now. I've followed Dr. Roy Spencer. I know of John Christie because he has worked with John Casey and Willie Soon. So these are not just some clowns that are just saying things just to go against the grain. These are guys that have put in the work for many decades. And I'm proud of them, and I'm glad to see them getting they deserve this. We should have guys like this working and helping understanding climate science. This will also help out the Green New Deal programs that will probably be unwound now because of this. And that also will unleash the drilling of oil and gas, which will then proceed with you think gas prices are going down now in certain areas of the country. We haven't seen anything yet. So, but again, this is good news for people who are sick of wasting their tax dollars on things that aren't going to stop the climate. It's not going to change it anyway. Mother Nature has been at this for 4.5 billion years. It's a shame to think that the arrogance is so big that man could control climate. And that brings me into my next part of our show. 3 dead, 85 rescued as record river crest triggers flash flood emergency in New Mexico. And this was on Wednesday, July 9th. We've seen some incredible video. Let's take a look at this.
Oh no. Oh no. Oh my god. Oh my gosh. Oh my god. Oh my god.
All right, that's New Mexico. Historic rainfall triggers widespread flooding across Tokyo, Japan. 4 inches on Thursday. Does it say how long that took? In 1 hour. 4 inches in 1 hour in Tokyo's Narima ward. And I should get my son down here because he just got home from Japan today, actually. Let's move along. There we had the floods out in North Carolina just recently on Tuesday, thanks to remnants of tropical storm or tropical depression Chantal. And then we have storms flooding out D.C. Everyone's freaking out about the big cloud, the big green skies that were over D.C. You know, like, oh my God, this is just really severe weather. It's almost like there's large amounts of water precipitation in the atmosphere. When you have large amounts of water precipitation in the atmosphere, you're going to have blocking of the sunlight. Okay, so you get the picture there, guys. Again, more flooding. Crazy floods, right? Here's China and the Nepal border. 30 missing, 1 dead. More flooding. How much rain did they get on July 8th? So, why am I showing you all of these stories? We're talking about cloud seeding as if it's making a difference, as if it's causing all of this. So, cloud seeding in China and Japan and DC. And then let's not forget Chicago, where 5 inches of rain fell in 90 minutes. I'll repeat that. 5 inches of rain fell in 90 minutes. No, we're not going to watch the ad. That's, how dare you, 5 Chicago. Again, here's that number that we're hearing, that 1 in 500 year event, that 1 in 500 year event, 1 in 500 year event. Grand solar minimum happens every 415 to 450 years. Weird how that lines up with that 1 in 500 year event. Strange, right? But yet, everyone wants to blame cloud seeding. This is a chart here of total precipitable water. Now, what I want you guys to focus on, and I'll move this out of the way first before I start. What I want you guys to watch is the pressure, and you see these little systems out here that are rotating clockwise. I want you to pay attention to what happens to the moisture once these systems move over Texas. So I started this at July 2nd. And let's take a look as we go 8 hours at a time. Now notice the color teal that is over the Texas area. Maybe I can zoom this in a little bit for you guys. Let's see what that looks like. Okay, you could probably see that a little better. All right. So with that said, the color teal that we are seeing is at the highest point of precipitable water in the atmosphere. Okay. Let's move it another 8 hours. Still a very, very bright teal color. And look now at what this pressure system is doing. You see the rotation? So it's rotating like this. So any precipitable water that is in the atmosphere, when you have this kind of pressure system just basically being a conveyor belt, and this is the amount of precipitable water in the atmosphere, this is going to constantly bring that stationary type rain that we saw in Texas. And again, we're talking about the highest color you could have of precipitable water in the atmosphere. So this is the reason why we saw this consistency in the moisture going over the same spot over and over again, on top of atmospheric combustion as well. That's right. That's a grand solar minimum term. You all know what I'm talking about. But people are saying, no, that's cloud seeding. As the cloud passes after it gets seeded, by the way, and this is crazy now meteorologists are admitting that there is a such thing as cloud seeding. But what's funny about it is now they're saying that, well, once the cloud passes, that's it. The plane injects the cloud, it seeds it, it rains, and as it passes, it dissipates. So now they're willing to admit that cloud seeding is real, but on a very small scale, and it doesn't work like this. This is July 3rd, by the way. Going to July 4th, still having that clockwise pressure, slowly starting to move east now, finally, on July 4th. July 5th, we're still seeing, and it's because of this system that is rotating right here, right in the middle of your screen. It's going clockwise. It's stationary, and that's why it's pulling all that moisture over the same spot over and over again. Now, where's this moisture from, you're saying? The cloud seeding. No. This is remnants, this moisture that's in the atmosphere, this is remnants of a tropical storm named Barry that flowed in from the west. So as we watch, we get here to July 5th, that pressure again. And now notice, guys, take your eyes up to where North Carolina, where Chantel caused flooding. Look here in the Midwest where Chicago is. It's not a coincidence. The ingredients were in the atmosphere. So cloud seeding down here in Texas has nothing to do with the moisture that's in the atmosphere here in Chicago that got the 6 hours or the 6 inches in 1 hour, or here in North Carolina that also saw flooding. And also, again, we just watched footage from DC that everything got real dark and green. Well, when you have this much precipitable water in the atmosphere, it's going to block out sunlight. Let's keep moving. I mean, this graph is lining up with everything, guys. Here's July 6th, still getting pounded in rain in Texas. Chicago, that moisture moving eastward. That storm is now moving up the northeast. It hit DC. We had flood advisories in West Virginia. And the precipitable water that is still in the atmosphere has also brought several rounds of showers here throughout the Northeast and across the Midwest. But guys, this was not, and here's the problem too. As we're looking at yesterday, that rotation is still there. So the question is, how much precipitable water is still in the atmosphere, and how long is this low pressure system going to continue to spin over central Texas? Now, it's starting to move out finally, according to this map here. This is predicting. These aren't usually very good, but here's the good news. Look at the dry air that's about to approach Texas. But also, it does look like a resurgence of more precipitable water in the atmosphere. Why? Why here on September or July 13th? Why? This system right here is also going clockwise, which is pulling moisture from the Atlantic into the Gulf, and it is back drifting into Texas. Not as bright, but we are not out of the woods yet. So, why am I talking about this? Why am I talking about precipitable water? Well, I'll tell you why. Precipitable water, highly charged particles. I just showed you cosmic radiation is getting closer to 0% and going above that now. Negative 6.4% is a lot more cosmic radiation dosage that we have been getting during the maximum. You combine the cosmic radiation increase with precipitable water and cloud nucleation, because there was a ton of atmospheric combustion happening in Texas during the peak of these flooding storms that they had down there. Tons of it. What are all these terms you're saying? Atmospheric combustion, highly charged particles, cosmic radiation, cloud nucleation. What is all of these terms? These are terms that happen during grand solar minimum. These are not coincidences. What we're witnessing right now with the seismic activity, again, we are at the same point that we were when we started this channel, which was coming out of a maximum and heading into a new minimum. I think this map is very active, okay? And the one thing that I want to talk about is Campi, I don't want to butcher that, but it's the super volcano in Italy. And there has been a lot of unrest activity at this volcano. Now, if this volcano, and there's no imminent eruption happening here, but there is concern that this volcano is coming out of its dormancy phase. The amount of earthquake activity at the brim, not at the base of the mountain here, we're talking at the brim of the volcano, really is starting to be concerning that the caldera is recharged and could erupt. No one's putting a timeline on this, but the fact that we're seeing concern, and this story has been circulating for a while, especially since January this year, I've seen articles for May of this year, and as we continue to see the declination of solar activity, that also kicks off more seismic activity. Lower KP kicks off more seismic activity. Solar winds impacting our magnetosphere, like we're about to see here in a couple of days, impacts seismic activity. We have a lot of volcanic action right now, for considering that we're not even in the minimum yet. This is just in the last 24 hours, last 48 hours. Of course, page isn't loading. Wants a donation. I give to these guys. They do a lot of work. You got to keep track of a lot of stuff out here. Let's get a Mount Rainier update. Well, maybe later. I just want to see if we can get an update here, guys. Here's all the minor earthquakes that's happened today. Under 1 magnitude, 2 magnitude, nothing crazy. But the fact is that we have a lot of them. Mount Rainier is a stratovolcano as well. What's that got to do with anything, Jake? Stratovolcano will create climate changes in climate. And not just here in the United States, but I've seen you guys in the chat talking about the 63,000 eruption. I think that was in India, Indonesia. There's so many going on. Where was it at? I just seen it in the comments section. A lot of people out here today. Good to see you guys. Nonetheless, Japan also dealing with volcanic action. I didn't even include that with this. So we've covered the flooding. This happens during grand solar minimums. It's historic data. You can look it up. We've covered the seismic part of this. Here's more of the climate part of this too. Early stratospheric warming, waves emerging around Antarctic polar vortex. This was Sunday, July 6th. And the reason why I want to talk about this is that there's papers going around talking about the AMOC is weakening. The polar vortex is being predicted to be weak this year. And if you've been following this channel for a while, this is Antarctic now, but still, the fact that we're getting, for them, this is the middle of their winter. But the signs that the cold is being relentless in the Antarctic area is what we also need to watch too. Usually they say that's what's coming our way when it comes to what we could see in this year's winter. And what I can tell you, they're predicting a La Nina for this winter. They're predicting a weak polar vortex. And a weak polar vortex means you're going to have a wavier jet stream, which will allow more Arctic polar air falling into mid-latitudes, meaning more snow, more cold. It's a mess. This is not a coincidence, guys. Solar activity is declining. So are the global temperatures. We're seeing an increase in flooding activity because of the increased amounts of cosmic radiation, along with other natural particulates already in the atmosphere, creating cloud nucleation. You saw how much precipitable water we have in the atmosphere. And, and I just think it's worth noting, and I want to go back real quick, back to the 4th of July weekend. The amount of water that was in the atmosphere is tropical. Guys, look where the rest of the teal green is in the tropics. The majority of that precipitable water in the atmosphere is from the tropics. So yes, that's definitely the remnants of Barry. But all this is tied into solar physics. Man's CO2 emissions are not creating superstorms and high flood events and earthquakes and volcanics. The volcano in Italy, the Campi Italy volcano, could be a type of situation where if it blows, there goes your agriculture in Europe. Your food prices will go skyrocketing. In fact, I got an email from a gentleman who lives in New Zealand, and he's very freaked out right now because U.S. dollars, it costs $10.80 to get butter out there in New Zealand. $10.80 American money if you wanted butter, a tub of butter. So what is the grand solar minimum? Expect 50-degree temperature swings in 24 hours. Tell me you haven't seen those this year. Expect 1 in 500-year storms. Expect 1 in 500-year floodings. Expect 1 in 500-year earthquake eruptions. If you hear things when people are saying a 1 in 500 year, that's a very strange coincidence because just about 500 years ago was the Maunder minimum. And I want to mention something too. Empirical data has shown through ice cores and ocean floor sediment and tree stumps, the AMOC, was on the verge of collapse or weakening right before the Maunder minimum. And here we have confirmation from scientists that right now the AMOC is weakening, but it's not going to shut down. That's the reassuring part of it. But it's still weakening, just like it did right before the Maunder minimum. Lots of signs pointing, folks. The evidence is there. The physics, the science is there. We've got the best people in the community for natural climate change now in the White House. Thank you, Trump, for bringing in Dr. Roy Spencer and John Christie, very, very highly respected, along with the other gentleman, Stephen Koonin as well. We got some common sense. We've got real science. This work is not overnight, and it's not signed by people who claim to be climate scientists, but they're really a librarian in Dime Box, Iowa, or Mickey Mouse signs. By the way, another victory for Michael Mann, I should say a loss. He has been ordered to pay back over $650,000 in a lawsuit about climate change, on how he misrepresented data sets, on how he deceived the public. We're starting to see a huge shift, folks. It's coming fast. As far as energy prices and gas prices, hang on, it's coming. It's going to be a little bit, but it's coming. Because all these Green New Deal, EPA regulations are going to go away very soon, and it's going to unleash an abundance of energy. So, we hope you got something from this show today. If you have people out there who are patient and are willing to take a look at the data and the proof, share this video with people who are saying this is cloud seeding. I pretty much laid everything out on why we saw the moisture and why we saw the floods. And in the areas in North Carolina, in DC, in Chicago, in Texas, in New Mexico, everywhere we showed you where these floods were happening, you saw the highest amount of precipitable water in the atmosphere, along with stationary fronts that were bringing that moisture in from Barry and just pounding these areas over and over and over again. Guys, that's not what cloud seeding does. That's not caused by cloud seeding. That's all about atmospheric pressure. This is something so complex that it baffles my mind to see humans be so arrogant, thinking that man could actually cause what we are witnessing right now in the last 7 days. Absolutely, absolutely arrogant. Mother Nature's been doing this for 4.5 billion years, folks. Don't flatter yourself. Man is not doing this. All right, guys. So I want to say hello to a few people out here in the chat. We got Knife Collector, Wood Spirit, Rebecca, Shirley. Hello to Mari out there holding it down. A lot of old people in here. Randy Willis from Tennessee. Good to see you out there, my friend. Reverend Fry, good to have you on board tonight. And a lot of other new faces. Also, people are just watching. Melody, good to see you out here as well. But, guys, I got to ask of you, and that is we need some likes and comments on the video. Tell me your thoughts. What are you thinking about where we are in the grand solar minimum? Are you prepared? Are you ready to start growing your own food? Are you ready to start seeing the pain of the high food prices as we get closer to the 2030s? What have you done to get ready for the grand solar minimum? So hit that like button, hit that subscribe, and also take a look at our Patreon channel. It's basically right now we're building up new packages for perks for customers, or I should say subscribers, but there will be packages for you guys as we continue to build up towards getting this channel back on regular content once again. But all the help we could get on our Patreon channel would be amazingly appreciated. It helps fund the website, the YouTube channel, everything that we got going that's related to grand solar minimum. So humbly we ask take a visit over there and see if there's a subscription package that fits your budget. Guys, that's all I got for you tonight. Stay tuned. Things are really starting to crank up. Mari and I are planning a schedule to start normal broadcasts because there's too many things going on right now and too much noise about cloud seeding and weather manipulation. It's time the truth comes back on the air and sets the record straight. Thank you for tuning in tonight, and we will talk soon. See you guys.
Do you like this show? Give us a thumbs up. Want to support us more? Share to your favorite social media platform. Buy a